Hi, Taylor. How are you?
Good, how are you? You look nice.
Thank you. You look very summery.
Thanks. It's a summer color kind of day.
I love it. It is pure Michigan, right? Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
I
Yeah.
can. Good morning. Thanks so much for helping out with all the questions. We had quite a big group register. I think we had almost 160 people registered for this class. So I appreciate the help.
Anytime.
All right, so we are really excited. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. This class is what we like to call listings, listings, listings. We're basically going to cover everything from A to Z that you need to know about listings, everything from preparing for your listing appointment, what you need to know, how you need to get the information for the property, as well as filling out forms, what makes it easy. Then we're going to look at how to make a wowing CMA. From there, we're going to go into Taylor's portion, and Taylor's going to teach the second half of the class. She's going to show you great information about photos, using social media, our single property websites, and great ways to promote your listing. So if you have not taken a class with us before, we try to keep this as interactive as possible. So over to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll probably see a kind of an orange arrow, or it may be minimized at the bottom of your screen, kind of looks like a blue flower. Within that panel, that GoToWebinar panel, there is a questions box, and feel free to type your questions into that box as we go forward. How it's going to work is I'm going to take you through the first part of the class today, showing you some tips and tricks getting ready for your listing appointment, and then Taylor and Lisa are going to be handling the questions behind the scenes. And then when Taylor teaches her portion, then Lisa and I will be answering the additional questions. So feel free to put those questions on in there. And keep in mind, we are recording this class. So if you step away, hopefully you're bottom lining an offer or grabbing a call saying your offer got accepted. If that should be the case, we are recording this, and Taylor's going to actually walk you through where you can find this class recording, as well as where you can sign up for additional classes too. Sound good? Did I miss anything, Taylor?
Nope. I just wanted to let everybody know too that I added the URLs. We'll show you where to go to get it as well. But in the chat, I added the link to our YouTube channel where this class will be recorded. Or you can watch all of our other classes. We have classes, past ones that we've done of this as well. And all of our other classes on all of our tools are available on this YouTube channel, all organized in playlists. And then I also added a link to our education corner, which Colleen puts together every quarter of all the classes. So it has classes throughout the summer that you can also register for. And then I added a link to the Cuba Casa class that's coming up here soon. We're going to be covering Cuba Casa a little bit in this class. So it's just a little snippet. So if you want to learn more or see some of the new features that have come out with it, you can sign up for that Cuba Casa webinar. There's a link for that as well.
You are the best. You are fast. So where Taylor was she just put those links in there. You can also find that right under resources. We try to keep it all right within Paragon, right? So you can watch this class again. Let's say you missed something. We're going to go over a lot of information and a lot of different products. So if you do miss anything along the way, Taylor put the links in there. It's great to save those, but you can also find them again right under this education section. And just like you probably saw today, if you click on this education corner, it's kind of like our online digital class catalog. And so if you're interested in an upcoming class, like Taylor just mentioned, like Cuba Casa, which is an awesome class, all you have to do is find that particular class, or my good friend Lisa, she teaches an amazing tax records class, which is coming up on Tuesday, June 24th. You simply click the register here button, and just like today, you'll be brought into a webinar. Taylor also has spots left in her real estate photography classes. This is an awesome class. If you have never taken this, strongly recommend it. but all of our classes here are complimentary at My Real Source for our members. So definitely register. And for Taylor's, it does fill up every single time. She teaches how to take better pictures of your listings. I thought I took pretty good pictures as an agent, but then I took her class and I was kind of embarrassed. She showed me great things like when taking pictures of hallways or bridgeways. Mine always looked kind of short and dumpy. She showed me how to add more light into the shot, controlling my shutter speed and making those shots more elongated. And I was famous for either being in the mirror in those little powder rooms or getting the front toilet shot. She has what I call the patented Taylor shot. She'll show you great techniques like angling off the counter into the mirror to get the entire room. So if you haven't taken that class, you're really missing out. And again, it's free for all My Real Source members, and it's just a great thing to help you improve in your real estate skills.
Lisa just completed it last month.
Hey, good going.
Yep, she completed the program last month.
I did. It was a great class. Excellent class. I would highly suggest it.
That's awesome. Taylor, do you want to talk about the fall upcoming photo field trip? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. So the program right now only scheduled as part 1 and part 2, but if you wanted to complete part 1 and part 2, we do a fall photo field trip. So that'll probably be sometime in maybe October, where I go to a furnished modeled home. So each group kind of gets smaller and smaller after each class. And then you have a partner. There's a small group. We go to a furnished modeled home. You get to apply everything that you learned in both classes, as well as have my assistance with your camera, using these techniques and direct feedback if you have any struggles. And the houses are always perfectly staged and beautiful. So it's a great way to build your portfolio up. Especially when listings are, kind of slim right now. And you also receive a logo. Just started doing this, so anybody who's completed the program can receive a logo for completing the real estate photography program, so that you can, add that to your bio on your listing presentations, add it in your signature, your email signature, things like that. So just kind of keep that in mind and keep your eyes peeled for the field trip. But August 26th is the next part 1 that you can attend.
That's awesome. So again, to remember to register for any of these classes, you're just going to go right into the MLS. You're going to go right under resources, and that's where you will find the education section, and that would be the education corner. As Taylor mentioned, though, we do record our classes. She put the link to find this class. It usually takes us about 24 hours to get it uploaded, and all you have to do is hit recorded webinars. And that takes you basically to our YouTube channel. I tell people the easiest thing is simply just click on this videos button, and that's where you can find all of our classes. And of course, the date is right afterward. And so you can actually watch this particular class. So if you wanted to follow along, or maybe you just missed one small part, you can go right back to that particular class. It looks like I think the last one we have in here, the tools for tackling low inventory class, another one that Taylor and I teach, which is another fun one. All right, so let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about what we're here to look at, and that is really listings, listings, listings. Really, I just went on a listing appointment last night, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks when you're researching the property. And yes, I did get the listing. That's the important part. You want to have all of those details, and you want to give it you want to create a presentation that's going to be that wowing presentation so that you walk away with the listing every time. It comes right down to, it's really a lot of times putting in the research for your listing even before you get to the listing appointment. I'm going to show you some ways we can save you money and save you time on preparing for your listing appointment. All right, so let's actually start there. And I'm going to turn my fuzzy hair off just so you can see the entire screen here. When you're starting off, when you're looking for a particular listing, the first thing you want to do is you want to go into the MLS. I usually just use this quick search right here at the top. And I like to type in that address just to see if this property has ever been listed before. Has it recently closed? Because a lot of times it's telling us a story. Maybe they listed it a year ago. Maybe they purchased it a year ago. I want to have the history of this property, and that's where I'm going to start doing my homework. So what I would do is I would go up to my quick search. I just start typing in the address, and as you can see, there are 3 records for that particular address. If I didn't want to go one by one, let's say I wanted to open up all 3 of those closed records, all I have to do is click on this listings 3, and it's going to take me to all 3 of those search results. So now I can see, okay, it closed 3 times. I can see if there were concessions on the property. I can see how it sold, when they purchased it. I can see who had it listed. The next thing I want to do is I now want to go into the tax records, because that's where I'm really going to start doing my homework. I want to figure out how many bedrooms. I know what the MLS says. I can see it's 3 bedrooms and 1 story from here. But of course, I want to go into the municipality record. And one of the ways that My Real Source can save you money is through BS&A. So as a member benefit through My Real Source, and I believe we're one of the very few MLSs, I think we do and East Central does, you can actually click a button and go directly into that specific property record for that listing. So instead of me having to log out, find the tax records, find the municipality record, log into BS&A, now find the municipality, wait for that to load, now find the address, there is an easy button. I'm simply going to click on this listing. I'm just going to open this listing up. And you're going to find, and I do apologize, I say this every class, it kind of looks like a trash can. I apologize. It's not supposed to be a trash can. It's actually supposed to be a government pillar. But Brian, our CIO who built it, he kind of smushed it onto the button there. So it looks a little like a trash can. All you're going to do is click on that icon. And if you are a My Real Source member and you are searching in either St. Clair County, Genesee County, Macomb County, or any of the 5 Grosse Pointes, you will get that property record instead of paying the $625 that it would normally cost you if that property record. And let me explain, not all municipalities charge that, but if the municipality does charge that $6.25, they actually send us the bill so that you don't have to take out your credit card and pay for each property record. And I know it's only $6.25, but if you do 10 listings a year, it starts to really add up. So now I've opened the property record, and this is really where I'm going to start doing my homework. As you can see right here, I can see it's 1 full bath, 1 half bath. I've got 3 bedrooms. I actually save this, and I actually include this right in my CMA. With Cloud CMA, one of the beautiful things about using Cloud is you can bring in the tax records, you can bring in the market stats, which we're going to show you. You can bring in all those outside documents that are going to help educate that seller, meaning I can show the seller exactly what's going on in their particular market. I'm going to show you how to do that next. But here, when the seller asks me, well, Colleen, where did you get my square footage from? I can actually say, well, I got that right from the municipality. The nice thing about this is the actual assessor's record. Recently, we were getting ready to close, and there were some unpaid property taxes. The nice thing that My Real Source does that is different than most other MLSs is we actually use the live BS&A server. And what that means is if you were like me and your seller had to go down and pay those property taxes in order for you to close the next day, immediately when that assessor marks it paid, the title company could see that here and they were able to print it off. So we were able to still close. So it's really important, instead of using a feed that takes days to update, that's the advantage of using BS&A through My Real Source. 1, we pay those property records for you if it's a municipality that does charge, and there's a lot of them out there. more and more these days. And then 2, it's going to be that live server. So you're getting up to the minute information. I also like that many of the municipalities are now including water. As you know, an outstanding water bill, that stays with the property. So that does have to be paid before closing, right? Somebody has to pay that and bring it to zero. So you can actually see in many of the municipalities, they'll have outstanding water bills available here, property taxes. For the listing that I took yesterday, there was a lot of work done on the home. So I could even see the permits. He actually added like $50,000 worth of hardscape to the home. It was stunning. But I could see every permit that he pulled with the city. So also sometimes that's a good indicator if you're seeing a lot of maybe inspections done after a fire. These are all questions that I want to remember to ask when I'm at my listing appointment. So as I go through here, I can see everything from, yes, it was built on a basement. I can see the property history. I can see the square footage. I can see how large the garage is. All of that detail is here. Another thing that I really like is it does tell you if the basement is finished or not in many of the cases from the associations. But I also like that it shows how it was conveyed. So as you can see, these were arm's length. It will show you if the property has gone to sheriff's sale. I can see all of that. So I start to do my homework. In many cases, you'll even see if they refied in the sales history. So we know people in the last couple of years, due to supply and demand, right? We didn't have enough properties and the buyer demand was so high, they were certainly overpaying in that market. So if they've only lived there 2 years, and if they, if you know that they bought 2 years ago and you see a refi, wow, you're probably going to be checking those numbers to see on that net out where they're actually going to be able to net out. So these are all things that I can do right from here, as well as I can see that frontage, the lot size, all the details that I'm going to need to gather just so that I can go ahead and put them in my CMA. So what I do is I just go up here and I click this print button. And I like to save this to a PDF because I want to pull that into my CMA. So that's the first thing. The other thing I like to do, I wouldn't say I'm lazy, but I am always looking for the shortcuts, if you will. I want to make sure that I'm making a wowing CMA. I want to have a really pretty front cover with a picture of the home. But if it's 3 hours away, I'm certainly not going to drive up there, take a picture, and come back and do my CMA, right? So here's a little tip. With that public records photo, I can actually click on that and save it. Now, I'm not marketing this photo. So because Taylor teaches an awesome copyright class, matter of fact, we have that coming up here shortly, I'm not stealing this photo. I'm only using the home front to put on the cover of my CMA to show the seller. So what I like to do is I like to save this photo. I just usually do a save image as, and I save it to my desktop. And then I can pull that to the front cover of my CMA. That means that the seller will see it and I will see it. And now I have a better cover. If you don't put anything into cloud, it generally gives you that Google overhead shot. I'm not a big fan of that when you're trying to wow the seller. And of course, you could take your own photo and upload that as well. So now we've got our first record. We know how many bathrooms, we know how many bedrooms, we know the square footage, what it's built on. It's a 1-story home. I'm gathering those details. Recently, I listed a home, it was a condo actually, and it was in Clinton Township. And with this particular condo, this homeowner called and she said, this was actually my mother's condo. It's my first home, but I can't stay here because the taxes are so high. And so I asked her, I said, well, tell me what you mean by that. And she said, I don't know how anyone can afford to stay. And it was Clinton Township. It wasn't kind of making sense. So I went in to do my homework. And I printed out, and sure enough, there were tens of thousands of dollars owed in taxes. And so in meeting with her, it kind of, because I put that into the CMA, I printed that PDF and had it as like the 4th page. I wanted to bring it up in our listing appointment to better understand what was going on. And sure enough, so the mother had passed and she's now living in the condo, but it was never homesteaded. And so I simply asked her, is this your primary residence in Michigan? She said, it's the only home I had. This is, I've never lived in a home before. This is, and So it turns out all we did is we called the city, and she became a client for life because we simply called the city. We explained what happened. I actually drove her down there. She met with the assessor. They rebated almost all of that outstanding tax debt. And again, now we have our happy client, and all because I remembered to put that in my CMA to handle those objections or questions. And she did end up selling, which was still good. But it allowed me to go through it with her so I didn't miss anything. So the second thing I want to have in here is the realist record. Now you're probably thinking, well, if you have the municipality record, and I am aware that there are some on this call that are coming in from vendored MLSs. You may not have everything you're seeing. So if there's something you're not seeing, you can call your local MLS, whether you're with the Upper Peninsula or East Central, and you can ask if you have that particular product. Because a lot of times they're hidden in plain sight, and you don't know if you have it or don't. But in the realist record that you're looking at, we're gathering a lot of that information. And again, Lisa teaches a whole class just on public records and shows you how to do farming from here, create an SOI, create mailing labels. There's so much you can do in this. But now I'm gathering the details. Again, I can see much of that property history, and if it's gone to sheriff's sale, I would see that here as well, who listed the property. But what's interesting about this particular record, you can see if it was a refi right down here. So a lot of the same information. But the reason I always pull both is sometimes there is discrepancies, meaning it may say, as you can kind of see, it says MLS 1 story here, but true life story pulled up in front of the house. The MLS clearly showed it was 2 stories. There was a picture even in there, but the tax record is 1 story. So again, those are the things that we put in our CMA to ask that question. So I happen to be Sterling Heights. I asked the gentleman, it says 1 story here, but it's clearly 2 stories. And he said, oh yeah, well, I do a home repair and I put the 2nd level dormer on. And then my next question was, would you pull a permit? And his answer to me was no. And so that's where we started, right? Now we called the city and resolved that issue. But having all of those pieces in the CMA allows you to address it and go through. Sometimes you will see it says MLS like this, and next to it, it'll say tax records, because this is actually a combined source. It's pulling some of the data from the MLS and some of the data from the tax record. And therefore, if there is a discrepancy, it kind of calls it out or highlights it for you, so you remember to ask that question. So again, for this, I also print this as a PDF, and I insert this into my CMA. The other thing that we certainly have to do, especially in this market, is we've got to educate our sellers on why we're giving them the price or price range that we are, why we're sitting with them and we're saying, okay, I think your house is going to sell for this. This is the type of financing we're seeing. This is, the comparables, just like your home. I want to put that in a nice, easy to see cloud CMA report. But I also want to educate them on what's happening in their city and their county. Just like yesterday, sitting at that listing appointment, they weren't aware of what the average sales price or how many listings were in that particular city versus last year. And so I'm going to show you how to very easily create those reports and pull those in too. But as we start educating our seller, one of the tools I really like to use is called Market Stats. So if you go to resources, and by the way, if you're kind of new to Paragon, resources, think of it like your agent toolbox, if you will. It's got all your cool tools in here. Cloud CMA, showing time. It's got the link. You can go to RPR from here. You can pull real list information, list track, market stats. It goes on and on and on. But in this case, I want to go to resources and I want to select market stats. And you can see that's kind of under the social media and lead gen. And Taylor's going to show you a lot more in that today. But really what I want to do on my listing appointment is I want to show the seller exactly what's going on where their home is. So you simply go up to Fast Stats, and I love Fast Stats. I use this for a lot of things. And you would go to the county of the subject property. So last night, I listed a house in Washington Township. So I'm going to simply click on Washington Township, and that's it. Now I can look like an expert even in the marketplace, even if I'm brand new. And what that does is it creates a PDF of stats. Okay, so yesterday, and it's always going to be one rolling month behind, remember, because it's got to gather all the stats for that particular month. So yesterday, when sitting with that homeowner, I said, you know what, last year in May, there were 66 homes on the market. This year, 62. So we're down only about 6%. When I sold her previous home last year, we had a huge increase in our average sales price. Matter of fact, I think it was almost $78,000, if I remember correctly, in her home. But now we're not exactly seeing that same thing, right? Supply and demand, we're not seeing the huge jumping off points that we did at one point. So I can show her what the average sales price was in Washington Township last year versus this year. There's also the median, and then condos are right down here. So if you are listing a condo, I can see that the condo market's down almost 22%. Yet our average sales price dropped slightly. So these are really great numbers. Again, I print this as a PDF and I put this right into my CMA. So now I have the details of what's going on with the market. Now I have the details of the home. Now I want to start finding the important thing, the comparables, right? If you've never done a CMA before, it's really just trying the apples to apples, right? You're not going to compare a 5,000 square foot colonial to a 1,100 square foot brick ranch. So what are the parameters? What's an appraiser going to use as a comp? What would they say? No, I'll never use that. Where does that square footage range stop? 5,000 to 1,100, right? So these are those little tips that we're going to cover next. So next, we've gathered our information, we've saved our PDF. Now we want to go in and we want to find those like properties. So I'm just going to close out of here. I'm going to go back to Paragon. And in Paragon, I now have, and by the way, if you found a previous, that address was previously listed or previously closed, I also like to put that in my CMA. I like to show that, yes, I see that you actually purchased, you had $2,000 in concessions. It was conventional. You bought it in 22. Ed Martin was the agent. I'm going to know all of those details, right? So the next thing I want to do is I want to use those details to find those comparables. So I'm going to go right up here to search. And obviously, you're going to search for comparables on the class. So if you're listing vacant land, you're going to do a vacant land search. Yesterday, a good friend of mine called me, and it was 9:45 last night, and she said, I really need help with a CMA. And it turns out it was acreage in Armada. And so at 9:45 at night, we were literally doing a Zoom, walking through what we needed to do to get a good comparable. In her situation, which was really kind of interesting, the house really didn't have a lot of value, but the acreage had a lot of value. But there was farm acreage and it had farm land where one of the neighbors was actually farming on. But it also had, we also needed the vacant land comps because we had to figure out a price per acre because it was very unique. In a situation like that, you can do a multi-class search. So we actually compared farmland and vacant land acreage, and we came up with a per acre price. Now, again, she was really trying to do a CMA on the home, but there was no home around with that amount of acreage. So that's kind of what that multi-class is. So every once in a while, you've got to use something that basically allows you to search over the class lines. So it didn't matter whether it was farm. Normally, you'd have to search for farm one and vacant land separate. Well, in this case, we actually searched them both. So we came up with a really great CMA, and hopefully she got her listing this morning. So the first thing I want to do, just to keep it nice and simple, is I want to say, okay, this is a single family ranch style home. So that's the type of comps I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to my first, and way, if my fields look a little bit different than what you have, it's simply because you can customize what fields are here. I was recently teaching in Detroit, and they said for our CMAs, we need to be able to add in zip codes. So you can see that's just a field you can add in under customize, so you can really make it your own. But in this case, I want to find out what the price would be for a comp for the subject property. So I'm obviously going to grab for sale properties. The most important number is obviously closed. But being an old Floyd Wickman fan, if anybody knows who that is, he always would tell you, if you are going to take up the time to sit with that seller, He already knows everything that's active in his neighborhood, and you should also have those in your CMA as well. So I'm going to do active, I'm going to do pending, and closed. Now here's a little tip. I absolutely hate these MLS calendars. I know I'm probably not supposed to say that, but I hate the fact you got to click in here and you got to go back 6 months and you got to click, 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 then pick on the date just to add one. That's really dumb. So here's an easier way. Go over to the date range. And all we're going to do is we're going to do what an appraiser would do in this area. We're going to go 6 months back. Here's another little tip, and not so much for today's market, but if the market shifts, and some people are saying it's going to be, we're seeing a few more people renting, and it's still, let's face it, it's still a huge seller's market. But as the market shifts, if we see, I remember, I've been doing this 25 years now. I remember in 2007, where we had like 6 years of inventory. Then in the past years, we've had 6 days of inventory. So, you kind of watch it go full scale, right? But in this case, what we're trying to determine is obviously the price, but we want to put in the comparables. We want to stay in exactly where an appraiser would stay. So that's really the key. So I'm now going 6 months back. I'm now saying I want to see everything for sale that's a single family home. I'm going to put in my structure style, which of course is important. So we're going to do 1 story. We know from our public records information that it was 3 bedrooms. It was a bath and a half. So I'm gonna go 2 to 3 just to make sure we get enough inventory here. Yes, it did have a basement. You really don't want to add features into your CMA though, and here's why. With the shortage of inventory that we have right now, if you put in too much, you're certainly not going to get any inventory. If you put in, must have fireplace because yours has a fireplace, well, now we may, if the agent, and it might even have a fireplace, but the agent might not have listed it because that's an option, right? So you don't want to limit yourself too much. School district would be something you would add, but what about square footage? So again, an appraiser is not going to compare a 5,000 square foot home to an 1,100 square foot home. That's not going to happen. So what is the parameter? And we saw that this home was 1,361 square feet, right? So appraisers, and any appraiser will tell you, I think I've got about 10 or 15 different appraiser friends. Appraisers will tell you that they use the 20% square footage rule. Now, one caveat here. Sometimes if it's a very unique property, they will have to go outside that. There's no, just like I'm showing you the basics, we're going to do a 1 mile radius because that's what an appraiser would, but if you're out in the country, you might have to go, 3 miles or 5 miles to find a property, let alone a like property. So I'm going to give you the parameters here, but do know that if you're working out in rural area, another exception to this is waterfront. That's a whole different animal. And sometimes you do have to play with that. We cover even more of that in the Cloud CMA class. But in this case, if we were figuring out our 20%, we would take that 1,361, right? And we would multiply it by our 20%. So we see that's 272. So our top number would be 272 plus the 1,361. So about 1,600 square feet. So that's really going to be our square footage top. Then you do the same thing, but you'd minus it. So you take the 1,361 minus the 272, and that's going to give you your range. Now I'm doing what an appraiser is going to be doing. But then people say, well, Colleen, things are selling for over, yes, you're very right. But if they bring you an offer and it's going to appraise at 300 and they bring you an offer for 400, somebody's going to have to make up that difference. So you got to know what the property is going to appraise at. And that we do, again, by doing just what an appraiser would do. And you're probably thinking right now, lady with the fuzzy hair, that's a lot of properties. Well, you didn't put in the most important piece, right? Location, location, location. So we're going to do that by the map. So I'm going to go right up to the map field, which is right here. And then let's take a look at how we would come up with that 1 mile radius. I'm going to take my subject property and I'm going to type it into this top line. Here's a little tip though. It uses Google Maps, so you do want to make sure you are simply putting in the route street address, meaning this is Wessel Drive, but leave off the drives, leave off the ways, the places, the courts, leave those off. Because most probably, If Google Maps has it abbreviated, it may not come up. The other thing you want to do is you want to put a comma and then the city, because this is nationwide. And so if I don't put in a city, I could be looking at, and by the way, there is a 41539 Wessel in Kansas, because I have been taken there before. So you really just want to put in the Route Street address, comma, the city, and then you want to go ahead and hit your magnifying glass. Now it's centered on our map, but I want to do that 1 mile radius. By the way, last week they did change this to a little bit different key over here to the right, but I'm going to show you that in just a second. If I go up to the search radius button, I'm going to type in, I want to go 1 mile. I'm going to shrink this out so you can actually see it a little bit better here. Now I've got my 1 mile radius and I can see those listings are starting to fill in. So what are you shooting for? Well, you're really looking for between 3 and 5 closed comps. Is it going to happen every single time? No. But if you're getting 25 or 30, now it's time to add a little more criteria in. And that's going to allow us, like, again, I would add in school district, things like that. So that's going to allow us to really get the right number of comps. If you see the clustering, it kind of, as you zoom in and out, it just means that the flags are close to each other, so they kind of cluster them. If you click on them, you can actually float through them right over here to the left. So really, really easy. Another thing, let's use Kita, my good friend who's on the call today. Kita is listing, she's a listing machine, first of all. And let's say she's going up to, we're going to say she's going up to Rose City, and she's going to list a property up there. It's a good 4 hours away. My dad lives there, so I drive it a lot. And she's not going to go all the way up there and take the picture and drive through the neighborhood and see what it looks like, and then come all the way back and do her CMA and then drive all the way up to meet with the seller again. Nope, that would be silly. So you can actually just use this little Google man over here. And Kita can actually set this right in front of the listing itself. Now, I love this because it will actually put the little flag right on the subject property. But Kita she wants to see the neighborhood. How is the neighborhood? Is it appreciating? Is it more rural? So Kita can literally walk down the street of that neighborhood. She can see all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac. I actually closed that property, so I kind of know this area. But it literally allows her to see the home to the left, the home to the right, and again, she can see that listed property right from here. So I think if you have ever used the Buyers Collaboration Center, which is brand new, by the way, brand new app for our buyers, your buyers can do this too. They can even now see property disclosures right through the Collab Center. So that's a really great class to take if you haven't. All right, so let's go back to our maps. Sometimes we have those really unique situations though, and I have to thank Lisa on our call who actually showed me this because this is something that I have used so much in preparing for a listing appointment. Let's pretend for a moment that Kita listed these 2 beautiful $1 million waterfront properties, which is great for Kita, but if we bring all those waterfronts into our CMA, it's going to really screw us up. So what we want to do is that waterfront area, I want to remove that waterfront area. So I'm not getting a bunch of listings that I have to go in and deselect, which is kind of a pain. So Lisa taught me that you can draw a shape on a shape. So you can go up to these drawing tools. And let's say Lisa, again, she did her 1 mile radius, but Kita's got these really fancy homes right here. So you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, you just drew a shape on the shape, but nothing happened. Well, one more step. You're going to go right up to edit here, and you're simply going to change it from include to exclude. Now I don't have to add in a bunch of waterfront. And sometimes, waterfront's pretty close. So sometimes you got 10, 15 properties coming in. Now you got to go deselect them all, and that's really a pain. So now I'm not bringing in anything in that area. You could also do this if you're working with a buyer. Maybe the buyer really likes this particular neighborhood, but this bottom corner, maybe his mother-in-law lives over there, and you don't want to be that close. So you can actually deselect an area in your shapes too. One other thing that I found really helpful here, sometimes in this low inventory market, you've done your 1 mile radius, but you don't get, maybe you get 1 comp. You're like, well, I need more than one. So how, instead of going up to search radius and now putting 1.35 or 1.50 or 2 miles, I mean, you could put whatever you want in the search radius and it will do it. However, what if you just kind of want to open up this circle just a little bit? Well, a very easy way to do that, let's take this off so it's not so distracting. A very easy way to open your circle is just click on it over here in the edit. Now, if I just want to get one more comp and I just want to open up my circle a little bit more, you can see I just added this one additional comp I wouldn't have had by just simply opening my parameter a little bit. And now, of course, I've got a lot of comps here, but again, we're shooting for those 3 to 5 comps. In real life, you want to make sure you're adding things like the school district is obviously very important. You want to make sure you're staying within that city. I've added some actives and pending. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of jump over to the search. I would really go in and refine this a little bit more, adding a little more detail. But just so we're not here all day and Taylor can get to her exciting part, I'm going to now just jump over into those search results. Now, I have to tell you, I have a little bit of OCD. My brain works kind of funny, which is why I should probably never be married. Every towel is the same color, folded the exact same way in a row in my closets. I'm that person. So when I see all of this on this page, it is very hard for me to process. I want you to remember that these search results can be organized very easily by clicking on the column heading. I like to see how many actives did I get? How many pendings did I get? So if you click on this status heading, I can actually see, oh yeah, got 2 actives. Because guess what? Those sellers are going to know that there are 2 actives in their neighborhood. Look how many pending we brought up in our 1 mile. Wow, we've got 5 pending. Definitely going to want to see what they were listed for and when they went pending. How long did it take? So I'm going to include those. Again, I would have put a little bit more information about my subject property, but for today's example, I'm just going to grab 5. Now, this is where that OCD brain that I have, this is a mess. I could not work with half of these things checked, but everything's still on here. So if you're like me, you can go right up to the checked box here. You know, I'm only seeing the properties that I really want to work with, right? But here's the magic button. This is my favorite piece. I want to bring all these into my CMA without having to do anything. I want the easy button. So right up here in this actions where you see this little plug, this is your easy button. I'm going to go click on actions. And there are 3 options. If these were active properties, I was going to show a buyer, I could actually take these right from here into the showing time carts and schedule all the appointments on one screen. It's very cool. We show that in the Collab Center class. But in this case, I want to make a wowing CMA. So I'm just going to select Cloud CMA. And it's going to do all the hard work for me now. All I have to do is give my CMA a name and type in my subject property. So 41539. It will actually quick fill. And the beautiful thing about it quick filling is it's actually pulling the subject property information from the tax records. So I just want to go ahead and click on it. You see it automatically filled in that there were 3 bedrooms. But we do know it was a bath and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. You can change it if you need to. We do not fill the square footage because we leave that to you. That's something that you would want to fill in because sometimes they add additions, things like that. But what I want to do now is I want to add that photo. Remember, I wanted that cover. So I took that photo from the public record cover. So I'm just going to pull that in. You can even crop it from here. Like I would not want that ugly old date on there. So I'm just going to crop it and I'm going to load it into my front cover shot. Now there is a whole class on Cloud CMA. And we kind of teach you soup to nuts how to do all that, but obviously much slower. But I do want to show you the finished product. So I'm going to jump to a really good one that's got a couple examples that I think will be helpful. So if I go to, this was a property that we recently closed. If I go to that CMA, there's 2 ways to present it. You can actually do a live interactive CMA, or you can actually, this full screen so you can see it, or you can present it on your laptop or even print it off in a PDF version. So what you're looking at right here took me 7 minutes to create. So this is a CMA I did in 7 minutes, pulled all the properties like I showed you in Paragon. My template is already there. But you can see I've brought in the tax records. I've brought in the lot measurements. I've brought in the BS&A record. I brought in those market stats. Now look at this market stats. They talk about a change, right? So this was a year ago. And at that time, the person I just listed last night, this was her house too. So another, she was a repeat client, thankfully. And we've got 43% down in inventory, but look at the sales price. Here's where we saw a big different story today, right? So instead of it being $271 for the average sales price, it had gone to $321. Got that big jump where now we're seeing a little bit more of a leveling out. So as we go through, comps that we selected are put into this beautiful view. You can have all the photos in there. If you're going to print them, you might not want to have all the photos. I like to, when they ask me, well, did Joe Schmagegi have a finished basement? I want to, wow, that is a bright finished basement too. Definitely can't miss that. I want to be able to go through and I want to be able to show them, yes, actually he had a fully finished basement. Was watermelon color apparently, but having all the photos there just is much easier. And then there's some great marketing pieces. In that time, properties were selling at 105% of their list price. Average days on market was 13. But you can also, let's say you just walked into that listing and you realize, wow, this needs a lot of updating. Well, you can actually take out the previous page and you could put in your own suggested list price. So maybe the comps show it's going to be $360 all netted out, but it needs about 20 grand worth of updating, and there's some things that need to be repaired in the home first. You can actually put in a price range or a price that you would suggest. So I love that it gives the agent a flexibility to do that, and it even does a whole page on the average price per square foot. There are great things in here like what sites. One of the questions I would always get every time I went on a listing appointment was, Colleen, the question is, where are you going to market my home? Is it going to be on Zillow? That's usually the first thing they ask you, right? Are you going to put it on Zillow? It's going to be on Realtor.com. So I wanted to actually handle those objections right in my CMA. And so that I think is easily done by simply adding those types of marketing pages in here. So Cloud, very easy to navigate. I think it makes a really great report. If you are interested, I'll show you the one Taylor and I sort of collaborated on. I used it last night in my listing appointment, so I'll show it to you now. We actually created some marketing pages that you can customize as well. So for just kind of jump down here, added in this one I added in the county as well as the city when we went through it. But there are great marketing pages in here that you can use that talk about the different sites as well as your marketing plan. And so this is that particular page. Let me show you so you can see it a little bit better. You can find this in our associated docs, but the bottom you can customize and put your own information. I think it looks a little nicer than the last one I showed you. But it's got the top sites. You do want to check with your broker and make sure that you do syndicate to the 400 plus. Most brokerages do, I would say, on average. There's maybe one or two that I know of that don't, but this is a great marketing sheet that, again, you can just put your name on, and it's answering those types of things even before they ask. There's also a great marketing page that I created on, you're going to tell them that you're going to put a lockbox on, you're going to put a sign in the front lawn, you're going to do Cuba Casa to get all the room measurements. Taylor's going to talk more about that too. Okay, so great news. We've got our presentation. We now got to do the paperwork prep, if you will. And so really that comes in the way of Transaction Desk. Of course, your clients can also sign it in AuthentiSign. So if your clients are away or maybe they're out-of-state sellers, they can not only sign their listing paperwork after you have the listing, but it's automatically returned to you. So let's go there. Again, where you're going to find most of your tools is really under that resources section. So I'm going to go over to Transaction Desk. And in this case, I want to start a transaction, but I really don't want to start it from the MLS. And most agents do a great job entering all their listing information, but I'd rather get it from the tax records because an agent can make a mistake. Let's face it, something can be entered incorrectly. So I'd rather get it from the trusted source. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what, I want to add a brand new listing. So I have all the listing paperwork. I'm going to click on add it. There is the screen that you're seeing right here is inviting you to try something called the new transact. I'm going to be honest, I am not a fan of it yet. It's going to be great. I see the long-term plan. Right now, the templates aren't there. There's a few missing pieces, so don't use it just yet. Trust me. So I'm going to do a new listing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously type in the address. But as I mentioned, I really want to use my packet. So I have all the forms that my office requires. So I'm with Keller Williams, so I'm going to use the listing packet. And I want to pull the data, but not from the MLS. I actually want to pull the data from Realist. So I'm going to select. Now, when Brian built this, it was really cute. He came and he goes, now all you got to do is put in the tax ID and it's going to allow you to, and I looked at him and I said, agents don't memorize tax IDs. Do you know how long those things are? We know addresses. So here's your next time saving tip. Simply go over to the right where the magnifying glass is. You're going to first select the county. So this happens to be in Macomb. And then all you're going to do is enter 3 pieces of information. You're going to enter the street number. Oops, how's if I put it on the right field here? The street number and the route street name. So we're going to do Wessel. You want to leave off the drives, the ways, the places. Trust me. We're going to search for that record. Immediately it comes up. We're going to check it off. And we're going to start our file from the tax records. So I don't have to fill in all those extra pieces. As you can see right here, it's filling in the year bill. It's filling in the address, the school district, the lengthy legal description, the tax information. And my favorite part, was truly my favorite, as I go through, it even puts the seller's names on the contract under seller. So it's actually smart enough to use the name. Now, can you edit the names? Yes, if they're, if it's like my client yesterday, her name was Marguerite on the paperwork, but she said, actually, I sign everything Marge A something. And so you can always change it, but it does take all that extra step about how did I spell their name and trying to re-enter all of that. It actually pulls it right in and then places it underneath the signature lines for the seller to sign. The other beautiful thing about this process is if you're using AuthentiSign, it actually knows where they're supposed to sign. They are pre-tagged, so when you send it out to the seller, it's already ready to go. It knows the seller signs here, they initial here, and so you don't have to move all those little tags into place. So we've got all of our paperwork that is now added to this transaction. If you need to, I kind of am, again, a little OCD, so I kind of like to have them in a certain order. You can drag and drop them into the order, especially if you're emailing them and you want them in a certain order. But one of the things I did want to show you was a little secret, the data sheet. So and people question me all the time on this. They go, that doesn't make any sense, Colleen. It doesn't make any sense. So let me give you the actual workflow. We're actually creating our listing paperwork right now, right? But here are some things we don't know yet. We don't know what the final listing price is going to be, right? Because the seller is going to determine that when we're at the appointment. We don't know what the room measurements are because we haven't done our Cuba Casa yet. So there are a few pieces I'm not going to be able to fill out on the data sheet. But let me show you what I do. I'll actually save the data sheet with all the information that I do know. Then once I have the signed agreement, I come back to the data sheet and I open it up and I add in those missing pieces like the price and the room measurements, the things that I now have. The cool thing is, instead of now having to go into the MLS and add all that same information that's on the data sheet, here's your next tip. You're going to simply click the Upload Listing button. That is going to take all that information and it's going to take it into a partial listing in Paragon. So what a partial listing is it's basically got all the data, but it gives you one more chance to review it. By the way, your office admins can also see it in there. So maybe your policy is that your admin enters all the listings or has to review the listings. They can also see this and go in, review it, and then hit save and make it live. does not make the listing live automatically because we want you to have one more chance to view it and add any photos, seller's disclosures, those types of things that we would need to add. So when you or your admin are now ready to make that listing live, all you have to do is go under listings, partials. Now, if it's an admin, they're going to see all of the office listings. So all they have to do is click on that office listing, maybe add your photos in for you, maybe preview your remarks to make sure there's nothing that's going to get fined. Then they can just go up and hit save, and that listing is live. This keeps admins from having to go in and rekey, 300 pieces of information that you've already filled out about your listing. So this is a way easier way that you or your admin can actually now go in and finish up the listing and make it live without rekeying that data. The other thing you want to make sure that you're doing, you can add open houses over here to the left, but you do want to make sure you have 48 hours to add your seller's disclosures and your lead-based paint documents here. Those are required unless some people will say, well, actually it's an exempt property. There's still an exemption form. You can put that in there. But the key here is how easy it is. I know we've all used other programs where it's in a zip file and you gotta unlock it and it seems to take forever. This is so simple. All you're really doing is clicking on add. You're gonna add in your new document. So I'm just gonna look on my computer where I would have that. In my case, it would be the class examples right here. And I'm gonna grab my seller's disclosure, double click on it. I wanna put in that it's the seller's disclosure. And I'm going to make that public. And I'll tell you, the cool thing is when you make it public, clients can actually see it right in the Collab Center too. So buyers who are looking, this is a way we can give more information than they can find on Zillow or Realtor.com. You're actually giving them something that they can see. By the way, if you're listing a condo, be sure to put your rules and regs or your condo bylaws in here. Because remember, you have to usually convey those in 5 to 7 days. Well, here they can actually see them right away. You've given access. The other thing I really like about that is I don't want to have to call you. Can they have 2 dogs there? What are the size limits? I want to be able to see that, and I want my clients to be able to see it and have that comfort too. So these are very easy ways that you can pull in those associated documents right into your listing. All right, I think that is it for me. I don't think I missed anything. I checked my little cheat sheets here, but with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Taylor, who's going to take you on the fun stuff. I sort of gave you the boring stuff. She's going to take you on great ways to promote your listings, like using a single property website. Now you've got this listing, what do you do with it? So if it's okay, Taylor, I'm going to go ahead and bump this over to you. Still with me, Taylor?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry,
Okay.
I forgot I was muted.
I'm like, I think she's still there. Hold on. All right, I'm moving to the presenter right now. Good. All right, I am making you the present. You should get a pop-up right now.
You guys should be seeing Paragon.
I see it.
Okay, great. All right, great job, Colleen. So the first thing that I just kind of want to recap is like this class is called A to Z. So it's a little bit of all the steps of what you need to do from the very beginning to the very end. So kind of right now we're in that middle ground where Colleen got the tax records, the stats, built her listing presentation, and the paperwork being pushed into Paragon. So we're pretending from right now that listing contract is now pushed into Paragon as a partial. So you can have, what's really nice about Paragon and something that I strongly recommend, we strongly recommend at the MLS, is keeping your listing a partial until it's ready to rock and roll. It's got everything that it needs, from marketing links to all the photos and descriptions and all the things that need to go out before you now last part Z from that I'll be covering from middle to end is going to be marketing that listing once it's live in the MLS as well. So right now, Colleen left off as with the listing contract, pushing that in as a draft, and how you would be able to access that is under the listings icon and then click on partials. That'll be there for you. You find my listing. So this is my partial listing. Let's pretend that everything that Colleen just did up to this point, this is that listing. And what's really nice when you go into entering the listing and finalizing that is everything you can do is broken up, or everything here is broken up into sections off to the left, so there's no missing any steps. And there's also containers for everything here, and it closes and opens up, so it's not too overwhelming to look at. Another thing that's nice is you can tab through each section. So anything that has the R is a required field that you need to add, but you can tab through each section. A lot of these will be populated from the listing agreement that got pushed over, and then you can break it down going into each section that would be something that needs to be on the listing ticket. Now, one section that I do want to highlight before we move on is the virtual tours and video tours. So there is a piece in Paragon that I really love. Is there's 4 placeholders for you to add promotional videos. So you can do 2 branded ones and 2 unbranded ones. So what does that mean? So from a branded standpoint, that's going to go out to all the advertising places, so you can have your name, your brokerage, recognizing, you know, that kind of branding on the tour that you do, or the video that you do, or the aerial footage that you have. Interactive floor plans are an option. So you will have a branded one that you can put in there, and then an unbranded is going to go out to all the MLS and IDX feeds. So everything in the MLS has a back end with feeds, data feeds, and they all, based on all these fields, they know where to go. So the unbranded is going to be visible in the MLS and IDX, so that there's not another agent in front of their clients. But anything that you are advertising for yourself, from your single property website to any of the online portals, those are all going to have your branding if you put that in there. So let's say that you have you work with a videographer, and this videographer does a lot of packages. So they can do an aerial video, and they'll do an interactive dollhouse floor plan with a Matterport camera, or just a basic virtual tour, things like that. Make sure to ask that videographer for a branded and an unbranded of each type of video, and you can add those in there. And I'll show you kind of how it displays here shortly. But let's say you don't want to work with a videographer. Let's say you just want to create your own tours. You can easily do that with your phone. I'm going to show you an example of unbranded and branded. You can easily do that with your own phone and have a walkthrough, and you can upload your YouTube video that you create, upload it into your own YouTube channel, and you can simply add this if you wanted. If you don't want to pay a videographer, you want to narrate and talk about the video yourself, you can do that. Now, this is an example of an unbranded. She's simply just saying the address and about the property. The other one will be branded.
Hello, everyone. Want to take you on a tour of my new listing at 50839 Marshall Lane in beautiful downtown New Baltimore, just steps from Lake St. Clair. Let's go in and take a look. Stepping inside here, we have an entrance to the 1.5 car garage. We walk right into the living room. It does have a gas fireplace. And then just off to the left, we have a full first floor bathroom.
So Colleen shot this just with her iPhone, and all she did was change out the intro. So shot this with her iPhone. You can edit right on your phone. There's an app called Clips on your phone that you can go in. You can upload that video, and you can simply, or you don't have to upload the video. The video will be there for you to pull in, and you can edit it if you want, and then simply add that to your YouTube channel. This is an option that we like to point out to agents if they want to create their own narration, their own tours, in addition to anything else that they want to do. But Colleen just simply swapped out her intro. She kept the tour the same, And then she just added her branded.
Colleen DeLang with Keller Williams Lakeside. Want to take you on a property tour of a new listing at 50839 Marshall Lane in beautiful downtown New Baltimore. Actually, we're just steps away from beautiful Lake St. Clair as well. So let me take you on a tour.
And then the same footage.
Stepping inside here, we have an entrance to the 1.5 car garage.
So these links, once you have them, you can simply hit this little share button, copy that URL, and then when you're in Paragon, you can paste that URL right into the branded and unbranded placeholders. Now, once you've added any marketing URLs, those will all be a little section on all the places that I talked about. So there'll be a little section that'll say virtual tour or video link, and you can click on those. They'll be right underneath the primary photo. Depending on the site, there might be a whole little tab section that has video tours listed. It just kind of depends on the vendor that you use, but it's right there in your face, right next to the listing photo, primary photo on all of these places. So now once you add all your listing fields, your marketing links, you can then go into add and edit photos. And this is where you would upload multiple photos at a time. You can do 99 photos at a time, and it'll load all right here. We do have the highest resolution in the state, so you can upload photos up to 3072 by 2304. If they're a little bigger than that, it'll naturally, or not naturally, but automatically resize that for you. And the smallest resolution is 640 by 480. So anything smaller than that, which is going to be really tiny, that's going to be like a thumbnail, scraping thumbnails, which is against our rules anyways, it's not going to let you upload it. But just know that if you are shooting with really high res and you're worried about the resolution being too high, the system will automatically compress it for you without distorting it. So it's going to be really high res, really sharp. It's going to load quick though. It's not so high resolution that it takes forever to load. So you can go in and you can do that. Once you upload those, it's going to upload them in a particular order that maybe you took them, how they're numbered, or if you went in and manually labeled your photos, it's going to put it maybe in alphabetical order. So you can simply drag and drop once they've all been uploaded. Now, what I recommend is kind of that experience coming either home from work or walking in the front door. You decide from your perspective of the home what makes the most sense. So you want to have that primary photo. You want to have, if there is something that's a really big selling feature outside of the home or location-wise of that home, maybe have one photo of that at the beginning. And then you're going to have the floor plan, which is Cubicasa, which I'll be showing you guys a little bit about that. And then you're going to want to get into the house. So you're either going to want to do the entrance and then the main space. So the closest main space, couple different angles of the living room, couple different angles of the kitchen. If you want to do some close-up shots, I recommend that. Cover the whole first floor, move on to the bedrooms and the bathroom that goes with each bedroom. And then you would move on down to the basement if there's a basement, and then work your way out to the backyard and any community photos. So I'm going to kind of give you an example of this flow briefly, but if you want to learn a little bit more about this and techniques and strategies for taking your photos, I recommend taking my photography program, or at least the intro, because we cover all of that in greater detail. But once you have all your photos uploaded, you decide on the flow of the photos and how it should be. You'll see that there's this little red pen right here. You can go in and you can crop the photo if you need to, or change the orientation. Sometimes when people take photos with their phones, it'll adjust the orientation for you. So no matter what way you're looking at the phone in your hand, it changes to the right side up. But depending on the phone that you use, if you were to send these photos over like through AirDrop or an attachment link, something like that, you open up these photos, they could be, especially on some of the older phones, they could be upside down. So you can go in, what a pain to have to go into another program to change the orientation. So this is something that's already in Paragon. It's been there for a really long time. You can change that orientation. You can also crop. I hope to maybe have some editing sliders added. It's been a request that I've put in, but because that would be really nice and convenient if you just needed to maybe brighten a little bit or bring up some of the saturation a little bit. That would be so cool. But for right now, it's not there. I do cover the photo editing side, ways to quickly do it in your phone, apps you can use from your phone, as well as professional editing software for those who have professional level cameras. I do cover that in the Part 2 class. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that when you're managing your listing photos is you can go in and you can add captions and descriptions. So it'll say add label. I've already labeled this one, what's called Mudroom. You have 25 characters in the label and you have 255 characters in the description. So what I like to teach in this class and the photo class is use the descriptions as a way to kind of discuss features of the home and that experience living there. How boring to, one, not have anything, but this is your impression when they see a listing come through that matches their price and their criteria and they're all excited. The first thing people click on is photos. So you want yours with the best primary photo, with the best lighting, the best contrast, and then to have a label on each photo with a little description. It will pop up. It's transparent, like a little gray transparent background. It pops up if the cursor's over it. You can describe little features of the home that maybe are kind of buried in the listing fields or the public remarks, stuff like that. So go ahead and highlight that in each photo. It looks really nice. All of this information does not go wasted. It gets sent obviously in the MLS, but it also goes out into the Collaboration Center, which is the tool that agents' clients use to then see the listing. So it's being seen in the MLS, it's being seen by all the potential buyers. It also gets sent out in the feeds that I was talking about, from IDX to syndication, agents' websites, all of them that receive that is something that is sent over. So it does not go wasted. It's not a waste of time at all. So let me kind of show you a little bit of the flow of this listing, and then we go into it a lot more, some of the feature or some of the techniques that I teach in the photo class. So as you can see, it kind of pops up. This is where you see a lot of contrast in the sky, green grass, blue sky, some highlights in the windows. So I teach you guys how to make sure you capture that so that your listing is the one that they click on first and get excited about. You can see if you move the cursor, the description goes away. But I made sure to use the description as a way to highlight some of the features, like what the community is. It's a 3-car garage and it has the circular driveway. Well, a circular driveway is great for entertaining, so I made sure to add that into my description. Then I'm going to have the floor plan. So from a continuity perspective, you definitely want to have that floor plan right at the beginning, because then it helps them place where the rooms are, and it makes adding your photos a lot easier, because sometimes it can be tough if you're jumping from room to room to understand, like, all right, where is that primary bedroom in relation to the other bedrooms or the kitchen? So if, you know, one person is sleeping in and it's right next to the kitchen, maybe they kind of want to see that before they take the time to go and do a tour of this home. It's just nice to have these floor plans. It also helps kind of create that whole picture for them. We see this on apartment sites, and we see it in all other countries. So especially in Europe, especially in Australia, and in South America. The United States is behind in the floor plan game. So that is the number, I think 2 or 3 request of something that potential buyers and sellers hope to have. So we brought Cubicasa on a couple years ago. And we strongly recommend that our agents use that. You get up to 5,000 square feet included in your basic membership with My Real Source. You get Cubicasa up to 5,000 square feet free on every one of your listings. So now I'm going in through the mudroom. I have a little description about the mudroom, not just labeling it mudroom, talking about how it has the custom built-ins, backpacks, and then I'm also kind of selling it, how nice it is that you can hang up your briefcases and purses, and a little office space for your bills and receipts, keeping your kitchen counters free of clutter, as well as a large walk-in pantry and coat closet. A couple different angles of each room I recommend. You wouldn't have seen the double ovens if you just had one photo of the kitchen. And then I also like to teach in my photo class how to do this, but a shallow depth of field close-up photo. So you get that blurry background, what to kind of look for when you want to take a more close-up picture. So little details of the home that you can be like, oh, I want to highlight this nice backsplash, or this deep sink, the nice hardware, things like that. Also some techniques I'll cover, shooting straight on, shooting at angles, things to look for. So a few different angles. I like to do some transitional shots as well. So I'm not jumping all around from room to room. I'm covering all the angles I would see as if I was there in person. I like to do a shot where I shoot down, always changing your perspective. So once you have your order of your photos covered and your captions and your descriptions, you can always go over to this view detail report and just simply click on the photo. And this is how you can see that experience. Because sometimes when you're just dragging and dropping, you think it makes sense. I've done that, and then I go in and I'm like, oh wait, it did kind of jump around. Let me, change this out a little bit. So once you've completed the maintain listing, adding your pictures and captions and descriptions, you can kind of see an overview of your whole report. You can see your links to your tours. What everybody is going to be seeing straight up in the MLS is what you're seeing right here. And make sure all the fields make sense, all the containers that you've added are all broken up in the report nicely. And now you can go in and you can add and edit your associated docs. So Colleen was kind of talking about that a little bit, but this is another place where we recommend adding that, where you can go in and you can upload all those. Those also, you just hit add new, and you can choose that file. You can choose the document type, if it's private or if it's public. And then if you want to schedule an open house, you want to add any tours that you want to either upload or schedule, or that you want to post out to the MLS, that will also be available. But what is nice is if you do take the time and schedule these open houses and tours, they will be available on all of those feeds as well. So if there is an upcoming open house this Saturday, it will show open house and all the details that get sent over. So all of this does not go wasted. It's not only in the MLS, it is in the MLS. It's all of our data shares. It's all of our vendoring partners. And it's on all of those feeds from IDX and syndication, as well as your single property website, which I'll be showing you. Now, there is an open house, the open house button. There is a live stream option. So this got added during COVID, and I think a few agents really utilize this occasionally, depending on their client, or as an additional way to market the property. This live stream allows you to check the live stream, add the URL. If you're going to run it maybe as a Zoom, you can simply put that URL in, schedule that, and that will be available. It'll look just like an open house. They'll click on it and they can see that they can actually watch the live stream of you doing an open house if you want. So we taught this as an option during COVID when they added it for us. But that was a great way for agents to still service their sellers and getting that exposure. And what we had them do was actually create an event on Facebook and invite, promote that. And it's going to be Saturday at 10. I'm going to do a live walkthrough. You could actually even record it on some of these streaming services, and you can have it there for that tour. And somebody can watch it at any time or have it scheduled, choose that date, choose that time. Of course, most people do open houses in person, especially now that we're out of the lockdown and the COVID bubble. But so you would simply schedule, choose your time. Any remarks that you need to add or comments that you need to add, you can go ahead and do that. So I mentioned that it goes out to all of these places, but you can also search in the MLS for tours and open houses. So under the search icon, there's tours and open houses. So if anybody wants to just check out what's happening in their area, they can simply click tours and open houses. That open house that you scheduled will then be available for that. Tour, same thing. You can go in. If you ever need to edit anything after you've already scheduled your open house or your tour, you'll see a little icon that says modify. You can go in and you can do that if you would like. So once you've added all your fields, all your documents, all your photos, scheduled your open house, you're ready to go. You'll see this little save icon. You'll see save listing and you'll see save as a partial. So save as a partial is still that draft. It's going to be hanging out there. Do you have your listing published date? You can go in, you're ready to go. You want to do that first thing in the morning so it hits the MLS bright and early. You hit save listing and it's live. It's live instantly in Paragon. It's live on all the Collaboration Center links instantly. They get a push notification as a new listing. So that's something to note, that if you're listing, you just have all you do the bare minimum, you're going to go in and you're going to add these URLs later. You're going to go in and add the remaining 30 photos later. You only get a new listing alert one time. So the feed sees it as a new listing because that's exactly what it is. So all those push notifications that go out and those matches is one time. So you got that one time to really make that first impression. So you want to make sure that this listing is the best that it can be before you make it live. It goes out to our data shares within about 30 minutes. It's also live with all of our vendor MLSs instantly. And then syndication can be anywhere from about 30 minutes, 15 minutes, I would say, to up to an hour. It just kind of depends when the batch of data gets pulled. So if you were to do it at, let's say, 12:13, it could be pushed in 2 minutes. But let's say that you do it at 12:18, it could potentially be not until 12:30 or 12:45. It just kind of depends on how much data, how many got put in, when it gets pulled. It's usually about 15 to 30 minute increments when those batches get pulled, from my understanding. So once you have your listing, you can save it and it's ready to go. So now that your listing is live, what should you do? Well, you will get a confirmation from our single property website that your listing is live and ready to go, and you can promote that. And what you'll see in that confirmation email is that beautiful single property website. So let's say this was the address that I just added. Colleen had it from start to where I took off, where I was editing it, maintaining it, finalizing it. Now I get that confirmation. I have my single property website. It's going to come through in an email, but don't worry if you miss the email or you just want to find it really quick when you're in the MLS. You don't feel like waiting for the email to come through. You can then go in and you can show you real quick. Pull up your property and you'll see this little house with a check mark. That is that single property website. So a lot of times agents are really, rightfully so, very excited about their new listing. They want to get it out there. They want to show their client. They want their client to share it. They want to put it on social media. They want to have a nice, clean place where this is hosted outside of the MLS and outside of all the advertising portals where there's other listings that don't, maybe even match their criteria. There could be advertising from other agents and, just a little bit busy looking, as well as targeting your client. So what we decided to do many years ago was design this beautiful single property website. Still holds up several years later from a design standpoint, if you ask me. Big, beautiful primary photo right here at the top. You can see that there's the gallery of photos option. If you want to click on that, you can click on them down here. Maria, she had a virtual tour scheduled. There's also a map view, and there's her lead contact information or a form you can fill out. Can request a showing from here. And then all the public remarks, nice icon based of all of the basics right here for you. So you can go in and you can see, the square footage. You can see the all the data fields that you added, and then the map and contact information form as well is down here. So you don't have to jump around too much if you don't want. But what we really like about this is that it highlights only that agent. It will highlight only you. It'll highlight only your listings on here, as well as some of your sold and your pendings. So we strongly recommend using this for marketing purposes when you're trying to get this on social media. If you want to send this to a client, this is the one that we recommend doing. You want your clients to be using accurate information right from the MLS, able to communicate easily with you. So the single property website is a way for them to promote this property, because we know the sellers love to share their listing, their home now that it's listed. We want you to make sure that they're not getting, bombarded by ads for anything else as well. So you can simply click this Facebook icon right here. It's going to connect me to Facebook. It wants to connect me. What's going on? There we go. All right. And it'll start creating a post. My internet's a little slow right now. What's going on?
I was having that earlier today too. So
is this the Facebook problem you were talking about earlier?
That is it. Yes, and it's never good, by the way, when I see behind there that's not opening, damaging winds and large hail, especially in your neck of the woods.
That's just what we want to see right now. All right. Well, let me go into just the URL. Hey, if that happens to you, go up to your browser bar and you can just simply click copy. And now I'm just going to go in as my real source page. Okay. I guess I'll go into my personal page because I don't know. Maybe
I was having it. It's definitely Facebook, because I was definitely, remember I was sideways, we were logging, and I'm like, gosh, this is giving me problems, and it never usually does. So it's definitely something on that end.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely lagging. I wasn't sure if it's because my daughter's downstairs streaming too, so maybe the internet's slow, but it's definitely Facebook. So, all right, now once you get your single property website on Facebook, it loads a large primary photo, which is really nice. You can go in, you can publish that. So I'm going to, I'll just publish it quick. And you can see how it shows up. You can go in, you can simply simply click that. And that's what the experience will be on Facebook. I just really like that it loads that large primary photo for you. And then I want to go through Cubicasa. So we kind of touched on it a little bit. I added a link in the chat for the upcoming webinar, but you sign up, if you sign up under My Real Source, under resources, I'll show you where to go, but if you sign up under resources, our version of Cubicasa, you will get up to 5,000 square feet free on every scan that you do. So we recommend obviously signing up under that URL, and then you would download it once you've signed up from the link. You download it on your phone. When you download it on your phone, you can then do your first scan as large as a scan as you want. So if you wanted to go over 5,000 square feet, that first scan is actually free. Or you can save it for, you know, a client, if the upcoming client has a large listing, even better. But the whole goal is to have a catch up with everybody else. Let's get a floor plan on every single one of our listings. Let's not be behind in that. Let's give the people what they want. Sign up, get that 5,000 square foot free. You get that basic floor plan. You can add on square footage. I'm going to show you guys this video in a minute just to kind of show you how it works, but you can add on the square footage. You can get a report. You get a report sent to you as well. And there's so many other bells and whistles that are available too that you can add on. I'm going to let Colleen speak a little bit to that in a second because she's a realtor herself and she goes in and she uses some of these features more than just the floor plan. And we do have an upcoming Cubicasa class where Colleen is actually in the app, talks about all of the features, how to use it, helps show you how to download and do all of that. And that's coming up on July 2nd, and there's another one on July 14th. So let me go in and show you guys a little video quick of how it works. And then open this up real quick. I don't know where my browser went. There it is. Okay. All right, you guys seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay.
But wait, now we're seeing the single property website.
Okay, so let me go into the video.
There we go.
For some reason, when I tried to share the single property website to Facebook, it like opened up a whole new browser for me. So probably because I already had it opened. But I wanted to show you guys how to click the check mark house and all that. So the man that's doing this scan, he downloaded it right on his phone, and now he's doing the scan. The scan, you can start on the upper level of the house, the lower level of the house, but it is a continuous scan. And you're gonna wanna follow around the whole room, complete the whole room, work your way up to the next level or work your way down to the next level. You also can do a scan of the patio, the front porch, any second dwellings. It just has to be a continuous scan. And then once you're done, you save that. And about anywhere, Colleen, what has been your average when you do it of how long it takes?
I'm finding 7 minutes, and it
Before
sure
you get-
beats, getting it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
7 minutes to do the scan, and I'm getting most of mine back in 12 hours. They say 24, up to 24, but I would say my last 4 have all been under that 12-hour mark.
Yeah, okay, good. So from a timing standpoint, you know, when you need to get your listing actually live, just kind of plan for that with your photographer if you're using a videographer, photographer, as well as submitting your Cubicasa floor plan. So about 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. I know mine came in like 10 when I did mine a while back. So it just kind of depends, probably similar to when you send it. But what I like to note though is that there's real humans behind the scenes looking at this. So I was a little nervous when I first did my scan because our basement is wall-to-wall boxes. We had baby gates everywhere at the time. We have a big fireplace that divides the house, the main rooms, and it kind of looks like a wall, and actually does connect to one of the walls. We have a staircase in the middle of our living room. So we kind of got a funky house and a 70s house. And I was a little concerned how it was going to pick up on it. My house was pretty messy too. And it did a wonderful job. And I like to think it's because there was real people there doing it. And they were able to see this is a fireplace, not a wall. They were able to see that the baby gate, and it wasn't a door. It was an actual open staircase. It wasn't a door. Things like that. They could see that there was boxes in the way from the wall to where I was standing, and able to give a very accurate measurement of the floor plan of the square footage as well. So let me show you how this works. Then I'm going to show you a couple of the other bells and whistles. And I'm not sure how we're doing on time. We're doing okay?
I think we're good.
Okay. So he started, they opened the app. Looks like he started on the main level. Following around the perimeter of each room. It'll also tell you to slow down, add more light, open doors, things like that, so that it can give you the best scan. And let's go a little bit. He also goes outside, as you can see, all continuous scan. And then once he's done walking through the whole property, it will load, shows you how he's submitting it, it's loading it. This is where you add the information. So the address, the scan, can pick any additional things. You can also do relabel the rooms. You can change the colors and the branding and all of that on there. You'll upload the scan. This is where you can do any of the add-ons too. So if you want to do any tours from the footage that's sent, any interactive floor plans that are some upgrades, you can go and do that. So within that 12 to 24 hours, you'll see an image sent over to you, a report that then you can upload right into Paragon. Now, an add-on that I know is Colleen's favorite, I'll let her talk about some of the other things too, but let me find it, the hotspots. So these hotspot tours is another thing that you can do where it will allow you to add the photos of the room. It'll have the scan, and it'll put little hotspots, and this is a link that you can then add into the link placeholders of that listing. And I just love this. I think this is so cool, just a cool experience, because you can then see the floor plan, and then you can see that perspective from where you're standing in the floor plan. And I know when I was looking for a home and I was searching for a home, that was one of the most frustrating things for me, is the jumping around from room to room. And this was, about 8 years ago or so, but it was very frustrating because there was no floor plans. There wasn't any transitional shots. A lot of times people would just do one quick shot of the room. You either like it or you don't. But from a buyer's perspective, of somebody who's working full time and had a little kid at home and wanted to go and look at homes, I was getting so frustrated because it's like, I want to make sure I like this house makes sense before I go take some personal time or go spend my evening and trying to figure out if this is even the house for me. So definitely using the different angles with your photography, definitely using floor plans, and this hotspot feature that's recent is nice. It's a more of it's kind of like a Matterport dollhouse experience, if you guys know what that is, but I kind of like this a little bit better. So the Matterports are where you can kind of walk through the home using either your phone and you're touching the screen or the arrows on your keypad. This is nice because this is just really quick little perspectives. Colleen, is there anything that any of the features that you want to talk about your experience since you're an agent?
I do like they did now, if you have a call coming in, or you can actually pause your scan, because you know it used to always be that you had to do a continuous. If you got a call and you answered it, it would stop your scan. It was kind of I didn't love that. Now you can actually do a pause your scan and then finish your continuous scan. They also now hosted, one of the things I had noticed, and I love this new feature. Before, if you hadn't used that scan in a while, let's say you went on the listing appointment, you scanned it, they decided they're going to replace the carpeting and paint. A few months later, they call you back. When you went to open that scan back up, it was kind of archived and you had to wait for it to unarchive. I didn't really love that. Now it's actually hosted so you can see everything. They now have some copy and paste features where you can copy and paste things into. So definitely some cool improvements. I have to say it's one of those products that I just continue to be impressed with how much more they keep adding. You used to also have to do it landscape mode. You now can do it portrait mode. So you literally just aim at the baseboards and start walking. And it's so simple, you really can't mess it up.
Yeah, I feel like every quarter they're releasing something new or a nice enhancement, or they're taking feedback. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is really wonderful. I mean, I remember the way back when you had the long tape measures, you were doing it with the seller and it took forever. And then we had those, matter of fact, I got one in my desk, those little laser beam measuring apps, which if you sneezed, it was off a foot. They were never very accurate. And then of course we got smartphones. So, you know, those were more accurate in measuring, but you had to write down each room and it, you know, it's just a pain. Now in 7 minutes, just by walking through your listing, it's all done for you. Lower levels, outside buildings, pools, sheds. It's fantastic. So I'm a fan of that one.
One thing to know is we also, part of our contract with Cubicasa, besides getting the 5,000 square feet basic plan covered with your MyRealSource membership, we also have copyrights that reside with the agent and broker. So a lot of third-party programs or feeds or things like that, they want to technically say that they own the data. That's one thing that we are really strict about, is making sure that copyrights and ownership of data resides with our brokers, because we are a broker-owned MLS. So Cubicasas, they are licensed to use for licensing purposes, but they do not own these plans. They do not have the copyrights to these plans. So, so just keep that in mind. That's something that's unique about our version of it. So to make sure that you don't just download any version of it and then you get charged, go to resources, Cubicasa floor plans, and you'll see our logo at the top. That's how you know that you're using the right one. Then you're gonna sign up, and then what email you use, you're gonna choose agent. Make sure you use the email with us, and then download it on your phone with that same login and password. And then you'll be under the MyRealSource blanket for copyrights, as well as the 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, what you see right next to them too is that's also new. There's a new property report that can make flyers, and that's very cool too. So lots of new stuff.
There's so much to this that I'm just touching on it. This class is at A to Z. So we cover the stuff you really need to know about each product, but just know that every one of these products that we talked about, we have a class on. So Colleen talked about Realist and BSNA tax records to start with. We have a class just on that. She talked about Cloud CMA, creating the CMA and all the others, a lot of other features to Cloud CMA as well. We have a class just on that. We have just a Paragon class. We have a photography class. We have just a Cubicasa class. So check out that education corner that I added to the chat. and register for Cubicasa if you have not already been using this product. I feel like we have a good adoption on it already, but especially new agents. I know there's a lot of new agents, but there's some veterans on here too. Today, you want to make sure you're using Cubicasa. So, Colleen, I'm going to hand it off to you now for the statuses.
Just to wrap up?
We're good.
All right. Okay. So there's just a couple quick takeaways, and I know we're coming to the end of our class time here. A couple quick takeaways that we commonly get asked in the class, so I thought I'd just throw it in there, and that has to do with when you have a listing and you want to refresh it. And I'm going to tell you, because I'm old now and been doing this for 25 years, we used to go in and we'd adjust the price $1 and resave it, and that would make the listing new again, like you were refreshing it, or you take it off the market for a day, and then it doesn't really work like that anymore. It used to a long time ago, before there were things like Zillow and Realtor.com and all the IDX sites, but now we have what's called cumulative days on market, which actually looks at that listing. However, sometimes if the listing has been listed for quite some time, you want it to be refreshed. You want it to have a new number, especially if, let's say, a year went by and they made some great improvements, so they want to take it off the market. If you want that listing to be in a fresh new state, meaning that the cumulative days on market now shows 0, you have to take it off of the market for a full 30 days. So if you were to remove that listing for a full 30 days and then put that listing back in, now it is a new listing. But if you just take it off for 28 days and then throw it back in or try to change it, it's not going to zero out those days. So that's very important to know. You can clone a listing as long as it's your own, meaning maybe you listed it, it didn't sell, they call you a year later, you want to put it back on the market. You can clone that listing. You certainly want to make sure you have your disclosures updated and your information updated, but you don't have to go in and do all that process all over again. You cannot clone someone else's photos or tours or someone else's listing, though. Keep in mind, it does have to be your own listing. And then the coming soon statuses and ABO statuses when you enter a listing. This is something you want to be familiar with. A coming soon status. Now, I want to sort of clarify that if you're coming from another MLS, whether it's the Saginaw Board of Realtors, the Upper Peninsula Board of Realtors, Bay County Realtor Association, if you're coming in from one of those MLSs, this is going to be different for you because this is based on your board or association's policies. And what that means is ours here at My Real Source, if you enter a coming soon listing, it can be up to 7 days. Automatically on day 7, it will roll over into an active listing. It does not have to be 7. And it could be 2 if you decide that. But some of the other boards, some of the other MLSs and boards have different policies. There's one board that only allows it for 5 days. There's another board that only allows it for 2 days. So you do want to check with your particular. Ours here at My Real Source is 7 days, then it automatically flips over into an active listing. But the important things to know on coming soons, they cannot be shown by anyone in the coming soon status, meaning it can't be shown by the broker, the agent. You can't have an open house. You can't have your team showing it. This really came about as due to the NAR clear cooperation policy, which is all over the news these days. But unfortunately, what was happening is agents were putting signs in front of listings, right, with their contact information. And you are driving around. So Keita's driving around her buyer, and her buyer says, "Oh, Keita, we didn't see that one. We would like to get in and see that house right away." So Keita goes back, she goes into the MLS, or she uses her Paragon Connect app, and she's looking for that property and can't find it in the MLS. So Keita goes, she's a great agent, so she's going to make sure her clients get in there. She calls the number on the sign. She doesn't get a call back from the listing agent. Now 4 or 5 days go by, and Keita's clients are upset with her because they really want to see that house, and she can't show it. Finally, it goes up in the MLS, and it's pending. And wouldn't you know, it's pending with the listing agent, right? Buying and selling. What was happening is they were called pocket listings, and people were doing it so often, but it was really harming the seller, the buyers, and the realtors, because what was happening is Kita and her clients were going to offer way more money than they actually accepted, but they never got a chance to see the house and present their offer. Now, Kita's suffering because her clients are frustrated because they wanted that house. And so NAR stepped in and they created what we call Policy 8, or the Clear Cooperation Policy, that says, if you're going to do a coming soon, you have 1 business day to put it into the MLS. That doesn't mean that you have to, if you put it in that coming soon status, you don't have to show it for up to, our rules are up to 7 days, but it has to go in the MLS so we know when it's going to go active, and it levels the playing field. That gives everyone a chance to see the listing. So hopefully that makes sense why that rule is there. But the important thing to note is every coming soon will have an activation date. That's when it's going live for showings. But it does have to be put into the MLS within 1 business day. The traditional MLS listing, you have 2 business days to put it in. And then, of course, you have to show it right away. So keep in mind, if you are going to use that coming soon status, that you do need to know the rules. The last status is ABO, accepting backup offers. I'm going to tell you, I hate this status. I just don't like it. Really, because license law says we have to present all offers, we've always accepted backup offers. If you get an offer, and even if it's pending, you're required to tell the seller that you have a backup offer. That is license law. However, what it really means is that buyers get all excited because they see a new active listing and it's ABO and it pops up on Zillow. ABO means that technically there is an offer that has been signed on that property. The homeowner is going to continue to show it so you can still see it, but we do want to explain that to our buyers ahead, because of course buyers are devastated all the time that, you know, they're trying to find their house, they have high interest rates, there's this, there's that. So we do want to explain to those buyers what ABO actually means. You know, yes, we can go look at it, but it's probably going to close, especially in this market, right? So that is what ABO, accepting backup offers, means. So those are some. Now there is going to be some changes coming in the very near future regarding the new NAR policy that just came out recently called delayed market listings, but we'll have more on that probably the next time that we do this class. So I think that's all I had. I think I nailed my list here. Anything I forgot, Taylor?
No, I don't think so. And we got 6 minutes to spare. So
Wow, that's never happened to us. We're
that
doing
never
good.
happens. We're like right on the time, or maybe a minute or 2 after, sometimes more if we're getting better at this class.
Yeah, and remember, there will be a survey coming out right after this class. Please let us know what you thought of the class. If there's things that you think we should add. I know we cover a lot. That's always what comes back in the survey. Wow, that was a lot. And it is. Remember, there's a class on each one of these things, but we are going to be sending out a survey. We'd love to know what you liked about the class, as well as what maybe we could even do better. So please be on the watch out for that after this. All right, that's all I got.
Okay, me too. Great job. Thank you everyone
right.
for joining us today, and hope to see some of these names. I'm looking at everybody's names. I see some familiar names, but hope to see you in some upcoming classes as well.
And go list some properties. We need the inventory, okay?
Yeah.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye. Have a good one. Bye, Colleen.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.